I'm going to give you the disturbing suggestion in this video that my role as a YouTuber, your role as a YouTuber, our role as YouTubers is much closer to being an author for Wikipedia than it is to being a movie star or a newsreader on a public broadcast network. What I'm doing and what we're doing here falls into the same class of fundamentally unmonetizable content creation. But people are attached to a false analogy that somehow because it's a person talking into a camera, because aesthetically it resembles a news broadcast, that we're entitled to the kind of payment of an employee of a TV station. Doesn't even matter if you reach a bigger audience than your local TV station. If you reach 1 million viewers per video on YouTube, you'd be making about $4,000 for that video. What we're doing here, economically, in terms of its value, is more like Wikipedia than it is like the nightly news. They're a non-specialist without any real depth, and they just kind of go around and try to, make a survey of secondary sources at a shallow level, put together a YouTube video and reach a mass audience, and then they feel entitled to earn a living. They think that has value. And the free market is telling you very clearly that has no value. It's very easy for our innate sense of justice to interfere with our understanding of economics. Economics is not just significant as a social science. Economics is not just important as a practical tool for your own financial planning to figure out how much money you can earn and how much money you can spend. Economics is really important as a kind of key to unlock social and political phenomena on a large scale and to figure out how those phenomena intersect with your own life on the small scale of one person struggling to survive, struggling to lead a meaningful life, and what have you. In terms of our innate sense of justice, I think it's natural to sympathize with the clip I'm about to play you. It's natural to sympathize with the guy who comes on camera and tells you he makes history videos, and if nobody wants to pay him a decent wage for making those videos, then that's your problem. It's natural to sympathize with a grape farmer in France who says, hey, his job is planting grapes. And he's planting grapes on this land where other farmers have planted grapes for 500 years or 2,000 years. And if nobody wants to buy the grapes, if nobody wants to drink the wine that's made from those grapes, then that's your problem. Then the French taxpayer has to support his lifestyle. He shouldn't have to change what it is he's farming or what it is he's doing. Even if the wine he's producing is so worthless on the free market that it's more valuable being processed as garbage and recycled into industrial alcohol, which is what happens with the French government wine subsidy schemes, because they don't want to lower the value of the other wine that's on the market. They buy up these grapes, turn them into garbage. Even in these circumstances, it's easy for someone in that position to appeal to your sense of justice and for that emotion to override the kind of detached, rational faculty that would lead you to question, wait a minute. What's the point of producing wine that nobody wants to drink? What's the point of farming if it's not even on a break-even basis, let alone a profitable basis? What is the point of filmmaking for empty seats? Or what is the point of writing history and recording history videos if people do watch it, but it doesn't generate any money on the free market for us to survive on ourselves?
I uploaded a video a couple weeks ago on the Battle of Dien Bien Phu. It's a smaller conflict that happened, so it doesn't have anything to do with the Holocaust or anything like that. So it's not necessarily controversial history, if that is even a thing. You guys can see here exactly where this got demonetized. It's not just the $1 that I made. I made $1 on this video. If I release 2 videos a month and 2 videos get demonetized, I lose a whole month's worth of income. And that is like really devastating. This has been happening to every release now that I'm doing. It's just going to keep happening, and I'm going to lose all the money that I'm investing into these episodes. They're expensive to make, and it's not just turning on a camera. We've got to do animation and research and writing and make sure all the subjects are covered well. I'm going to unlist all these videos. I'm not going to make anything anymore. So I'm done making content.
Argument by analogy is inevitable and useful. But we sometimes fall into the trap of being attached to an analogy that we haven't really announced or enunciated ourselves. Like, we didn't verbalize this analogy. We just presume it without examining it. So a lot of people here who come and talk on camera, they may have in mind the analogy a news broadcaster, someone who reads the news on CBS, PBS, NBC, whatever, on television. That person earns a good living. They put on a suit and tie and sit in front of a camera, and this is how much money they're. So if I come on YouTube and I reach an audience of 100,000 people, I should earn as much money or more money than this person who maybe reads the local news, local town news, local cities, and they only reach 100,000 people also. Therefore, I'm entitled to that wage, right? This sense of entitlement, this sense of appealing to justice. And this is not true at all. It's very easy for an historian to look at the the record of past authors who have been non-specialists writing for a non-specialist audience, writing for the mass market. They can look at the example of Will Durant, Americans say, Will Durant and his wife, who published complete garbage on the history of Western civilization and the history of Asian civilization. And they sold more than 2 million copies of big, heavy, hardcover nonfiction books. And when you sell more than 2 million copies, you make a lot more than $2 million, especially back in those days. They had hit books from the 1930s to the 1960s. And let me tell you something, the quality of those books is much, much, much lower than what you can now find on Wikipedia. But there's a hint when we look at Wikipedia that we might be attached to the wrong analogy. Yeah, that's right. Some people sit in front of a camera and they generate a news report for the nightly news on local TV, and they earn a lot of money or they earn a good living. And some people in the past wrote non-specialist history books for a huge audience, and they made millions of dollars. But you know what? There are these other people, and they create content for Wikipedia, and they never earn a dime. Which one do I have more in common with? Which one is being a YouTuber fundamentally, economically similar to? I'm going to give you the disturbing suggestion in this video that my role as a YouTuber, your role as a YouTuber, our role as YouTubers is much closer to being an author for Wikipedia than it is to being a movie star or a newsreader on a public broadcast network. What I'm doing and what we're doing here falls into the same class of fundamentally unmonetizable content creation that Wikipedia represents. Google it up. How much money did even the founder and CEO of Wikipedia make? Almost nothing. There were two guys who were credited as a founder. One of them is about $1 million net worth, the other about $650,000. Both could have made far more money if they had taken their time and energy and gone into any other area of software development, any other area of even website development during the same period of time. And that net worth, like Jimmy Wales, founder of Wikipedia, him having $1 million to his name, almost all of it comes from projects other than Wikipedia. He has a long career with many projects. The other guy too, the less famous co-founder, university professor with a handsome salary. Interesting guys, interesting careers. They did not make much money out of Wikipedia. And the people like you and I, the content creators for Wikipedia, almost all of us made zero. And right here on YouTube, it's the same thing. But people are attached to a false analogy that somehow because it's a person talking into a camera, because aesthetically it resembles a news broadcast, that we're entitled to the kind of payment of an employee of a TV station. Doesn't even matter if you reach a bigger audience than your local TV station. If you reach 1 million viewers per video on YouTube, you'd be making about $4,000 for that video. If you're lucky and it's long and there's a lot of advertising, it could be 8,000. But guess what? It could be 2,000 also, and it could be demonetized and you get zero. What we're doing here, economically, in terms of its value, is more like Wikipedia than it is like the Nightly News, and it has nothing in common with the logic behind the multi-million-dollar hit success of Will Durant writing his garbage History of Civilization starting in the 1930s. Let's move a little bit deeper here. Will Durant, The Story of Civilization, non-specialist writing history for the mass audience, mass market, non-specialist readers. What gets rewarded on YouTube? Specialization, writing for an audience that's narrow but deep. If what you do on YouTube is very particular and is appreciated by a particular group of people deeply, then they will pay you money to pursue the kind of content you're creating, to pursue the political activism you're trying to do, to chase your dreams, whatever your dreams may be. And when you scale it up socially, this probably does more harm than good. Who does this reward? It doesn't reward a non-specialist, a guy who, no offense, but that guy doesn't know Vietnamese. That guy doesn't have a deep understanding of the history of Vietnam.
And I'm going to lose all the money that I'm investing into these episodes. They're expensive to make. And it's not just turning on a camera. We've got to do animation and research and writing.
Dude, who should make that video? Not you. A specialist should make it for a specialized audience who should appreciate it. Somebody doing active research, presenting an informed opinion. Maybe if they do that, maybe they'll reach a much smaller audience. That audience is going to appreciate it, is going to pay for it, especially if it's connected to something that can make the world a better place, some kind of real world outcome, some kind of activism. This rewards specialists like the flat earth people, right? All kinds of crazy, kooky, scientifically false and fraudulent movements get rewarded by the underlying logic of how YouTube works and how Wikipedia works and how, in general, the new era of internet media work. All right? And again, you may feel a sense of injustice. You may look at some ridiculous conspiracy theory YouTube channel that's out there supporting a 100% meat diet and think, how is it that this guy is making money and flying around the world and holding conferences to promote a totally irresponsible 100% meat diet? And then you look over at some relatively virtuous channel that may be, again, producing for a mass market and may even be getting 100,000 viewers per video. But this guy can't earn a living, this guy can't survive, whereas the person presenting specialized content for an audience that's narrow but deep, for an audience that cares enough to support it, he's successful in another way. You scale that up, the problem isn't just a few little comparisons, a few little examples like flat earth and carnivore diet and this kind of stuff. You're aware this is part of the eccentrification of mass media, the breaking of mass media into these small little islands of social media, and then rewarding the most extreme, the most narrow, the most highly specialized voices. And all of it ultimately relies on you, the viewer, to voluntarily pony up the money. But think about how little money it is that's being asked for from you, right? Think about how much money it would have cost you in 1935 to buy the first volume of Will Durant's garbage book, The Story of Civilization, Volume 1, Our Oriental Heritage. And, nobody's even asking the question, sorry, how many Asian languages does this guy know? How many years? He knew nothing. I mean, he knew less than an editor on Wikipedia. This is a non-specialist going around doing a very casual scanning of secondary sources and putting them together in an impressive-looking book. And that's what a lot of people are trying to do here on YouTube. They're a non-specialist without any real depth, and they just kind of go around and try to, make a survey of secondary sources at a shallow level, put together a YouTube video and reach a mass audience. And then they feel entitled to earn a living. They think that has value. And the free market is telling you very clearly that has no value. What has value now on YouTube, and I think also objectively, when you think about the meaning and significance of research, is to do research that has real depth, to do research that comes to original findings, new conclusions, push back the frontiers of human knowledge a bit, to do research that's actionable, to find out things and communicate things to your audience that could actually make the world a better place through activism of some kind, through government policy, through changing how we live or what we do, right? Not just stuff that's for discussion in a parlor room, not just stuff that's informing someone who starts at level 0 awareness of the issue to get them up to level 2 or 3, but something that's going to be deeply appreciated by some audience. It's completely false to respond to this like the wine farmer in France and say, hey, my job is growing these grapes. And if nobody wants to eat them, nobody wants to drink the wine, if nobody wants to pay me so I can have the kind of lifestyle I aspire to, then that's your problem.